Who controls your money in a bank?
I don't know.
Last episode, we talked about what money is.
At its core, money is just a tool that we all agree to use for three main things.
In this episode, we're going to dive into why knowing who controls your money in a bank matters. So, you deposit $1,000 in your bank account. Awesome. You check the app and you see that the number is in there. But here's the twist. That money doesn't just sit in a vault with your name on it. The banks take that cash and lend it out to other people for mortgages and car loans, for example. And they promise to give it back to you when you ask, but technically, it's not your money anymore. It's theirs to play with. And it's not just the banks calling the shots. Both governments and central banks, like the Federal Reserve, set the rules. On a side note, the Federal Reserve is not federal. It's a private entity that was created on December 23rd, 1913. And it's not a bank. You can't go in there and open a bank account. All they do is print money, control interest rate, and tell you that inflation is only 2% per year. Now, this system usually works until it does not. Let's talk about bank runs. A bank run happens when a large number of people withdraw their money from a bank at the same time. This usually happens because of fear of insolvency, meaning the inability to give you back your own money. Bank runs used to happen a lot because of something called fractional reserve banking, where banks only keep a fraction of the money that you deposit. Prior to COVID, they usually kept 10% of the money that you deposit in your account. That means that if you deposit $100, they're only required to keep $10 and they can lend out $90. But as of March 26, 2020, the Federal Reserve reduced the requirement from 10% to 0%. That means that they are no longer required to keep any of the money that you deposit in the bank. Now, just because they're not required to keep any of that money doesn't mean that they automatically lend everything out. The Federal Reserve has something called IORB, which stands for Interest on Reserve Balance. It's an interest that the Fed pays the banks to incentivize them to park some of that money instead of lending them all out. As of December 2024, that interest was 4.65%, which is not bad if you believe that inflation is 2 to 3% per year. Historically, bank runs date back to at least the 16th century. One of the earliest well-documented cases is the 1664 collapse of the Stockholm Banco in Sweden. Since then, bank runs have popped up regularly. In the US alone, we saw several major panics in 1873, 1893, and 1907, each involving dozens to hundreds of runs. It's hard to get an exact count because of incomplete records, but during the Great Depression from 1929 to 1933, there are thousands of bank failures. And according to my research, it looks like there were over 9,000 bank failures. Most recently in 2008, we had the IndyMac Bank that closed in July 2008. Depositors withdrew $1.3 billion in over 11 days. That was the fourth largest bank run in the US history at that time. And then we had Washington Mutual that closed in September 2008. That became the largest bank run with about $16.7 billion pulled out in just 9 days. And then in October 2008, we had Wachovia with about $15 billion withdrawn in just a few days.
Emotional, damn it!
The US government, the Federal Reserve, and the US Treasury all played a role in bailing out the banks, while the small businesses collapsed and the homeowners lost their homes. And then in January 2009, Satoshi said,
Enough is enough!
And if you think that bank failures don't happen anymore and it's something in the past, well, this is straight from the FDIC website. You can go look that up for yourself. There has been about 569 bank failures from 2001 to 2025. And in 2025, we already had one bank failed in Chicago called Pulaski Savings Bank. From 2008 to 2014, we saw over 10 bank failed per year, with 2009 and 2010 being the worst years. 2009 had 140 bank failed, and 2010 had 157. And this doesn't just happen in the United States. It happens all over the world. And history shows when trust breaks, you are not in control. You become a beggar, praying to get your money back.
I went from being a multi-billionaire
to not being able to use my Apple Pay. 4 nights ago, I couldn't use my Apple Pay because somehow Adidas was able to legally go in and freeze my money. And when I see this, I think, well, if this could happen to me, this could happen to other Americans. And for what? You know, this can happen to an American that didn't even steal anything, that didn't even hurt anyone. This could just happen to you for saying the wrong idea out loud, for expressing yourself.
You are not the boss here. They are. And that's why some people are looking for a way out. That's where Bitcoin comes in. It's a way to take back control. No bank, no middleman. In the next episode, we'll talk about what is inflation and why it's secretly shrinking your cash. And look, I can't give you financial advice, but it might make sense just to get some in case it catches on.